Over the years there have been many beat-em-up games in arcades, some 2D, some 3D, some side-scrolling, some based on TV series or films. Here we take a look back at some of those games. Released by Capcom in 1994, the game introduced several new gameplay mechanics, including the addition of combination moves and a special character called IGUANA. The game also introduced the ability to perform a combo against an opponent in mid-air. The game featured up to 2 players simultaneously. Developed by Capcom and released in 1994, this game allows up to 3 players to play simultaneously. Players take control of predators who must battle aliens over 7 stages with a presence on Earth from the result of a bio-war project. The game was based on an early draft of a script for a film adaptation of the Alien vs Predator comic book series, and was intended to be a tie with the film. The game, however, ended up being a standalone project, as the film did not come out till 2004. The game was well received by the public and critics. Released by Taito in 1994 and also known as Lightbringer, the game revolves around an evil magician who has brought an evil spirit back to life and wants to seize control of the kingdom and has kidnapped the princess. Players can choose from 4 warriors who must stop the magician and save the princess. Enemies in the game include orcs, lizard men and werewolves, as well as demons and giant snakes as bosses. The game featured single player and co-op modes. Released by Sega in 1994, this is the sequel to Virtua Fighter, and it's a 3D one-on-one fighting game similar to other fighting games at the time. Players select a character, with each character having their own fighting style, loosely based on real-world fighting methods such as wrestling. The game introduced 2 new characters and was well known for its revolutionary graphics and was critically acclaimed upon release and well received by the public. The game featured up to 2 players simultaneously. Released by Namco in 1994, the game revolves around Kazuya Mishima, who, when he was 5 years old, his father threw him off a cliff to test his son's strength to see if he could climb back up again. Players can choose from 8 characters, engaging in hand-to-hand combat. Tekken was well received upon release and featured single-player and multiplayer modes. Released by Winkysoft in 1994, this is a side-scrolling beat-em-up that could be played by up to 2 players simultaneously. Health bars are displayed for both players and enemies, and when 2 players play together they can perform team-based special moves. The game is set in 2079, where a supercomputer controls all information on its cities, and crime stopping was supposed to be perfect, but some criminals, however, cannot be found by the system, so the government set up a special police organisation. Released by Rare in 1994 and known as Super Battletoads in Japan, the game is a side-scrolling beat-em-up where you play as the Battletoads who must brawl aliens and mutant rodents across 6 levels to save the universe from the Dark Queen. The game features single and multiplayer modes. Released by Capcom in 1994 and known in Japan as Powered Gear Strategic Variant Armor Equipment. The game's most prominent feature is its multiplayer mode and the ability to augment the player's mechs with a large array of different parts for different attacks. You can switch parts of the mechs, for example arms and legs. The gameplay is set out in a mission structure, 7 in total, with each mission giving the player a pre-set task, such as a time limit to eliminate enemies. There are 4 characters to choose from, and the game featured up to 3 players simultaneously. Released in 1995 by Winkysoft, this game is a sequel to the first game, and is also known as Guardians. The gameplay is similar to the first game, with players having a health bar, as well as enemies, and also for special moves. Enemies can be grabbed by walking into them, and the player can also perform a grab attack by pressing the attack button. The game featured single and multiplayer modes. Released in 1995 by Namco, this is the second game in the Tekken series. There are 10 characters to choose from, and the gameplay plays similar to the first game, with a few additions such as back throws and chain throws. Several modes were also introduced, such as survival mode, team battle mode, and time attack mode. Up to 2 players could play simultaneously. Released by Midway in 1995, this is the third installment in the Mortal Kombat series. Just like the previous 2 games, players choose from a range of characters to guide through a series of battles against other opponents. New fatality moves are introduced in this installment, as well as new features such as combos, and a run button was added so characters could briefly dash at their opponent. The game featured up to 2 players simultaneously. Released in 1995 by Midway, this game is an update to Mortal Kombat 3, with added gameplay and additional characters such as Katana and Scorpion, who are missing from Mortal Kombat 3. Added features include an extra Master Difficulty mode, and endurance matches make a return, where players face as many as 3 opponents in a given round. Single player and multiplayer modes are available in this game. Released by Capcom in 1995, the game introduces several new features, expanding on the Super Combo system found in Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. The game's plot is set after the original Street Fighter and features younger versions of established characters. Players can choose from 2 playing styles, normal and auto. Auto differs from normal in that the character automatically guards against a limited number of attacks. The game features characters such as Ryu, Ken, and Chun-Li, and the game allowed for up to 2 players simultaneously. Developed by Gazelle in 1995, the game was only released in Japan, and like many games was inspired by Capcom's Final Fight. Players control one of 5 soldiers, each who have an animated sequence of blows and have their own speed attack that inflicts damage to all on-screen enemies at once. The game was for 1 or 2 players. Released in 1996 by Sega, this game is different from Virtua Fighter in that all the characters have big heads and the gameplay is tweaked slightly. Interestingly to note that although the game features kids, they still retain adult features, such as facial hair and muscles. The game had single and multiplayer modes. Released by Sega in 1996, this game featured more detailed stages than previous games, and also introduced a dodge button. 2 new Japanese characters were added, as well as many returning characters such as Shun-Di and Jewel. The game is praised for its detailed graphics and features single and multiplayer modes. Released by IGUANA Entertainment in 1996, the game is based on the Batman Forever movie. 1 or 2 players can play as Batman and Robin, who must fight Two-Face, the Riddler, and various henchmen. Players can punch, kick, and use special attacks to defeat enemies. The game is sectioned into stages and a range of enemies and a boss at the end. The game was praised for its large selection of moves and combos. Released in 1996 by Sega and also known as Sonic Championship, the game is a competitive fighting game which sees players win each round by knocking out their opponent or by having more health at the end of each round. The game is similar to the Virtua Fighter games and features single and multiplayer modes. Developed by Eureka in 1996, this game is a spin-off of the Street Fighter series. What makes the game different is although the game plays like a 2D fighting game, the linear plane in which characters fight often changes along a 3D arena. The game received positive reviews upon release and allowed for up to 2 players to play simultaneously. Released by Sega in 1996, the game is known in Japan as Dynamite. The game is based on the Die Hard film and allows up to 2 players to play as either John McClane or Chris Thompson. Players must fight their way through waves of enemies with their fists, feet, and weapons that can be obtained from enemies and the surrounding environment. The game was well received upon release. Released by Capcom in 1997, the game takes place in an alternative future Earth. The game sees a group of bounty hunters who must capture the mad scientist Dr. Saturn and locate a computer disk that carries a program known as Shiva System. Players can choose from one of 5 characters, and the game featured single player and multiplayer mode for up to 4 players. Released by Namco in 1997, this is the 3rd installment in the Tekken series. Tekken 3 maintains the fighting system used in the previous games, but adds many improvements such as 15 new characters, and faster gameplay. Tekken 3 also featured a beat-em-up minigame called Tekken Force. The game featured single and multiplayer modes and is the second best-selling fighting game of all time. Released by Capcom in 1997, and like the previous game, Street Fighter 3 New Generation is a one-on-one fighting game. The main difference in this game is that only Ryo and Ken are present from the previous games, with a new generation, hence a subtitle, of characters made available. A new feature in this game is the ability to deflect an incoming attack without receiving damage, meaning players could also deflect against special moves. The game allowed up to 2 players simultaneously. Released in 1997 by Midway, Mortal Kombat 4 is the fourth game in the Mortal Kombat series. The gameplay is similar to the previous games, but one of the most notable differences is the inclusion of objects and weapons during fights. Returning characters included Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Liu Kang, among others. The game features single-player and multiplayer modes. Developed by Sega in 1998 and known as Dynamite Decker 2 in Japan, it is the sequel to the 1996 game Dynamite Decker, known as Die Hard Arcade outside of Japan. The game is a 3D beat-em-up in which players play as either Bruno Delinger, Gene Ivy, or Eddie Brown, fighting through levels on board a cruise ship and on a deserted island to save the president's daughter from a band of pirates. The game had single and multiplayer mode for up to 2 players. Released by International Game System in 1999, the plot of the game is loosely based on the Chinese historical novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Gameplay involves the use of magical powers and features the 5 Tiger Generals, Zahush Lang and Diakon, as well as other playable characters. The game featured up to 4 players. Released in 1999 by Namco, the game continues the fighting mechanics from Tekken 3 and sees players battle in teams of 2 characters. At any time in the match, the player can hit a tag button to swap out their other fighter, allowing the resting fighter to restore some health. The game also features over 35 characters that appeared in Tekken 2 and Tekken 3. The game features single-player and multiplayer modes. Released in 1999 by Sega, the game was originally titled Blood Bullet: The House of the Dead Side Story, later renamed Zombie Nightmare before becoming Zombie Revenge. Players choose one of 3 characters and must use their fists, feet, and any weapons they find to rid a city of zombies. Players progress in each level through using hand-to-hand combat, using guns or weapons to battle zombies and bosses. There is a single and 2-player multiplayer mode available. Released in 2001 by Namco, the game is the 5th in the Tekken series. The game introduced new gameplay elements. For example, for the first time, players can maneuver around an arena, interacting with walls and other obstacles. The game features 23 characters, many returning from Tekken 3, such as Brian Fury, Panda, and Yoshimitsu. The game also introduced 6 new characters and features single and multiplayer modes. The game was released by Sega in 2001, and the game features characters from the previous games and focuses on expanding on old features as well as adding a few new techniques. The game allowed for up to 2 players simultaneously. Released by Namco in 2004, the game is the 6th installment in the series. The game incorporates a faster fighting system as well as returning characters. You can choose from 32 characters in the game, and Tekken 5 also includes a beat-em-up minigame, and single and multiplayer modes were available. The game was well received upon release. Released by Namco in 2005, this is an update to Tekken 5, so the same story is featured, but with 3 new characters added. The game also combined modified versions of previous stages that contain different textures and remixed versions of the original music. The game features single and multiplayer modes. Released by Sega in 2006, the plot of the game revolves around invitations for the 5th World Fighting Tournament being sent out, and the 17 best fighters in the world begin their final phase of preparation. The game features characters from previous installments and has single and multiplayer modes. Released by Namco Bandai in 2007, this is the 7th game in the Tekken series. The game keeps elements from previous games, as well as the introduction of a new rage system that increases the strength of playable characters when they are weakened. The game also featured much bigger stages with more interaction than previous games, with single-player and multiplayer modes available. Released by DIMS and Capcom in 2008, in this game a new system called Focus Attacks was introduced, as well as Ultra Moves. The characters from Street Fighter II make a return in this game, as well as 4 new characters. The game featured single-player and multiplayer modes and was well received upon release. Released by Namco Bandai in 2011, the game is the 8th main installment in the Tekken series. The game includes nearly every character from past Tekken games, and players can choose either a team of 2 characters on each side or a solo character. Unlike the previous Tekken Tag Tournament, this game featured a storyline, with single and multiplayer modes available. Developed by Namco Bandai and released in 2015, this is the 9th in the Tekken series. The plot of the game focuses on the fights between martial artists Hikini Mishimi and his son Kazuya. Tekken 7 focuses on one-on-one battles and features the traditional playthrough in which players progress by beating 5 different opponents one by one. The game features single and multiplayer modes. Hope you enjoyed that look back at arcade beat-em-ups throughout the years. What ones are your favourites? Are there any I've missed? What ones do you still like to play? Have you played them in the arcades or on your consoles? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section, and thanks for watching.